You ever think about a love that's so strong it saves someone else, but completely refuses to save itself? It sounds like a total paradox, right? But that idea, that very tension, is at the absolute core of one of the most famous events in all of history. And we see echoes of it even today. Let's start with a recent story that really brings this home.
So picture this. It's September 2023. A father, Sandy Clunas, is out fishing in Canada with his son. All of a sudden, a current grabs their boat and starts pulling them away. Without a second thought, Sandy dives into that freezing water. He puts everything he has into pushing that boat, with his son inside, back to safety. And he does it. The boy is saved. But Sandy? He gets swept away by the current. He saved his son, but he didn't save himself. And really, it's more accurate to say he chose not to.
And it's kind of chilling. But that exact idea, he saved others but not himself, was thrown as an insult almost 2,000 years ago. You had these religious leaders, and they're mocking a man dying on a cross, yelling, he saved others but he can't save himself. To them, it was proof of his failure, a joke. What they had no idea, what they couldn't possibly grasp, is that their insult was actually the most perfect, powerful summary of the entire Christian message. A love that saves others precisely because it won't save itself.
So how is that possible? Well, to get it, we have to go right to the cross, to its absolute darkest moment. And I'm not just talking about the physical pain here. We're talking about something of cosmic scale. And it all starts when the sun just vanishes.
Yeah, the story says that at the 6th hour, which for us is high noon, the brightest part of the day, this deep, heavy darkness just falls over everything. And it lasts for 3 hours. Now, this wasn't some regular solar eclipse. That's impossible during Passover because of the full moon. No, this was something else. This was a supernatural sign, a clear signal that this wasn't just another execution. This was the judgment of God happening right before their eyes. Now, for anyone there who knew their scriptures, this would have been terrifyingly clear. It would have screamed two things. First, the plague of darkness that God sent down on Egypt. And second, the prophecy from Amos, who warned that on the day of judgment, God would make the sun go down at noon. So this darkness, it was like a giant neon sign from heaven. It was saying that the judgment we all deserve for our sin, that separation from God, was being poured out right then and there, but not on us. It was all being poured out on Jesus.
And then, right out of that suffocating pitch-black afternoon, a voice cries out. It pierces the silence. It's in Aramaic, a raw, almost foreign-sounding cry, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. I mean, just the sound of it is heartbreaking. It's a cry of complete and utter desolation.
Thankfully, the writer translates it for us. My God, why have you forsaken me? And we need to be clear, forsaken here is so much more than just feeling lonely. It means to be totally abandoned, left behind, turned away from. Think about this. For the first and only time in all of eternity, the perfect relationship between God the Father and God the Son was shattered. That, not the nails, not the thorns, that was the deepest pain of the cross. He was feeling the full crushing weight of our separation from God so that we would never have to.
But here's where it gets absolutely incredible. That cry isn't just a spontaneous scream of pain. It's the very first line of Psalm 22. Now, why does that matter? Well, that psalm starts with this exact feeling of abandonment, but it doesn't end there. It moves through all the suffering and ends with this incredible vision of victory, of the whole world turning to God. So you see, even in that moment of absolute agony, Jesus isn't just lost in despair. He's actually pointing to the bigger story. He's quoting the script, trusting in the ending that was written long before.
Okay, so this brings us to the climax of the whole story. As Jesus takes his final breath, something happens that literally rips the fabric of reality and changes our relationship with God forever. You have to understand, crucifixion was designed to be a slow, agonizing death by suffocation. By the end, most victims are so weak they can't even make a sound. But not Jesus. The text says he let out a loud cry. This wasn't the weak whimper of a victim. This was the roar of a victor. It was a king shouting that the mission was complete. He wasn't being killed, he was laying down his own life on his own terms.
And at that exact same moment, miles away in the Jerusalem temple, something impossible happens. The veil, this massive, thick, heavy curtain that separated the holiest part of the temple from everyone else, the thing that symbolized the division between a perfect God and flawed humanity, was torn, ripped in two. And here's the detail that gives you chills. It was torn from top to bottom. No human could have done that. This was an act of God. The barrier was gone. And here's a really cool detail. The writer of the Gospel of Mark uses this very specific Greek word for torn, schizo, only 2 times in his entire book. The first time, at Jesus' baptism when the heavens are torn open and God's Spirit comes down. And the second time is right here, at Jesus' death, when the temple veil is torn open so we can go up to God. Do you see it? It's a perfect set of bookends. First, God tears open the way to get to us. Then on the cross, He tears open the way for us to get back to Him.
So the cosmic event is over. The darkness lifts. The veil is torn. But the story isn't done. Because now the camera, so to speak, pans over to the people who are watching all this unfold. And their reactions, well, they force a question on all of us, even today.
And this is maybe the biggest irony of the whole story. The people you would expect to get it, his closest followers, the disciples who'd spent years with him, heard all his teaching. Where are they? They're gone. They all ran away in fear. Instead, the one person who sees what's really happening is the ultimate outsider, a Roman centurion, the enemy soldier in charge of the execution.
He's standing there, watching the way Jesus died, and he just says, truly, this man was the Son of God. So what made him say that? What did he see? It wasn't some flashy miracle. He didn't see Jesus call down lightning. He saw a man who could have saved himself, but chose not to. He saw a king find victory in defeat. He saw a love that doesn't save itself, and in that unbelievable sacrifice, he saw God.
And we can't forget the other witnesses. While all the men, the disciples, the religious leaders were either running away or shouting insults, a group of women just stood there, watching from a distance. They couldn't stop it. They didn't have any power, but they stayed. Their quiet, faithful presence says more than any speech, especially when you compare it to the big promises of the disciples who then bailed. They teach us something so important, that sometimes the most powerful act of faith is just showing up and refusing to walk away.
So all of this really brings it back to us, doesn't it? The cross isn't just some historical event we're supposed to admire from a distance. It's an invitation. It's a challenge to our most basic instinct, which is self-preservation. The Bible has this phrase for it, going outside the camp. It means leaving our comfort zones, our places of safety, and following Jesus into a life that looks more like sacrifice than success. It's a call to find real victory, not by looking out for number one, but by living for others, fueled by that same kind of self-giving love.
And that leaves us with one last unavoidable question that the cross puts to every single one of us. As you look at this scene, at this incredible love that refuses to save itself, where do you see yourself? Are you with the mockers in the crowd, making fun of something you don't understand? Are you with the disciples who meant well but ran away when things got tough? Are you with the women, watching faithfully, quietly present? Or are you like that centurion, an outsider who is so completely stunned by this kind of love that you can't help but say, truly, this was the Son of God?